to start this.
We are recording, sir.
All right, I'd like to call order the Hopkinton Building Committee meeting on March 2nd, 2021 at 4:33 p.m. We are operating under the governor's executive order where we can hold this meeting remotely. This meeting has been posted in multiple locations. Minutes are being taken, and this video will be uploaded later for the community if they have any questions or concerns. Well, welcome back, everyone. It's great to see everyone again. We've been very busy the last couple of weeks discussing many things on this project, and it's great to see everyone, and I hope everyone is doing well. Today we are, present for the meeting is Steve Chamberlain, Bill Carosa, Michelle Clark, Jay Burgess, Rob Nato, Rebecca Gagnon, Gordon Bristol, Barry, and Chris Kelly. The first thing to discuss in our agenda today is the approval of the minutes from February 2nd. You've had a chance to look at them over. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Perfect. And since we are remote, we have to do a roll call vote for any motion that's been made in this meeting. So I'll start with Steve.
Steve Chamberlain, yes.
Bill?
Bill Carosa, yes.
Michelle?
Michelle Clark, yes.
Jay?
Jay Burgess, yes.
Rob?
Rob Nato, yes.
Rebecca?
Rebecca Gagnon, yes.
Chris?
Chris Kelly, yes.
And Laura McCouple is a yes. Great, thank you guys, appreciate that. So the next step is basically our discussion about what's been done since our last meeting to give the community an update of what we've done. And I please say quite a bit has happened over the last couple months. Last month since our last meeting. I'm going to turn over to BPS to give an overview of what's happened since our last February 2nd meeting regarding the district.
Terrific. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How is everyone? Let's go by school. So we'll continue through Maple Street over the, let's see, our last meeting was, what was it, Norm?
February 2nd.
February 2nd. So yeah, not much to update over at Maple Street. A little bit of work's been done over the various small breaks with fire alarm and such. Middle high school, they have gotten through more than 50% of the additional roofing that was selected to be completed. Weather permitting, couple weeks, that will wrap up all the roofing at the middle high school. When that's complete, both Maple Street and Middle High School will have all the roofing that was designated plus some additional roofing complete. Those two facilities will be in great shape roof-wise and weather-wise. That's really it for those two schools. The lion's share of the work over the last month has been at Harold Martin. Continuing work on the addition. The addition, interior work, electrical rough is 95% complete. Mechanical and plumbing rough is about the same, 95% complete. Interior drywall will be wrapping up this week pretty much. That is looking real good. As soon as weather permits, we'll be getting out to the exterior. We're working through some issues with supply issues with spray foam. And have investigated some options with that. I'll update you folks probably tomorrow. It looks like we might be able to acquire some of that product and allow us to get back on track with the spray foam product as designed. We'll keep you posted on that. We're hopeful for that. And that will allow us to get the spray foam started in about 30 days and then get the exterior brickwork underway. Over some of the small breaks, they started and did some of the sprinkler piping work in the sprinkler room and in the gymnasium. So that's moving along quite well. And now that they're back in session, we are not doing any work in the renovation area. That's pretty much the update. We've done some small things, taking care of some issues at the high school with of the bathrooms that were redone. They did not like the real low volume flushometers on the new fixtures. So those are being put to 1.6 gallon per minute flush items, and that will help the flow through the existing piping and avert any future issues there with clogging that they've been dealing with over there. That's pretty much it. Gordon, you want to weigh in with any of the items I've missed out there?
And the items that I'll weigh in on are mostly things that the SAU district is doing, and that is we did contract with Johnson Controls to do the door security and the video security for the new addition at Harold Martin. We are well into the process of reviewing furniture for FFE for Harold Martin and the other schools, for the most part Harold Martin, and we were making some good progress on that. The intercom system installation has been contracted by the district, and we're preparing wireless ports in the new addition. So most of it's been that the school side keeping up with the construction side on the specialties of our infrastructure.
Terrific. Any questions or
Yeah,
comments?
Barry, quick question, just so I'm square. So it does sound like you were able to source the spray foam?
We're trying to get a confirmation. As we discussed on Monday, we'd like to be starting the spray foam in 2 weeks. They're telling us a month. I did not have a real commitment from them. We're willing to wait a month. We feel that will not affect the schedule in a damaging way. And today they were supposed to commit to us that we would have that product in that month timeframe and make a commitment to that. And it looks like we're going to get that commitment. I kind of wanted that in an email writing, so I have something to hang my hat on. But it looks like they're going to be able to ascertain the units that they need for the exterior spray foam. We're hopeful for that. That's the way the Turner Group really wants us to keep focused on. That was their original design. So we're working diligently through numerous sources to acquire that material. So Jay, to answer your question, we hope to have it in that 30-day period, and that will keep us on the schedule that we want. Like I said, we want to start in 2 weeks. We can wait those 30 days and not harm the schedule.
Okay, great. That's good news. Thanks, Barry. I appreciate the update.
Great. Does anyone have any other questions for BPS or for Gordon?
I don't know if, Bill, you want to speak to closing the flooring loop? Because you've now closed the flooring loop.
Sure. We've closed the flooring loop. Basically, Doug and Tish did a great job in getting us samples. The one sample that was not a scientific survey, but a lot of staff flying in and out of the library. The particular sample did not have enough supply. In fact, I think maybe enough for just one classroom. So I don't know. That wasn't obviously enough. So Tish and Doug came up with one that was very similar, a little more of a pattern, but we liked it. And the people that we had counted on for their opinion liked it as well. So we flew with it. And I can't remember the name of it, but it doesn't really matter. It's another Flotex sample. So everybody's happy and there's plenty of supply.
Right,
It
Jay?
wasn't periwinkle.
What was the other
We
one,
can call it
Jay?
that if you want.
Periwinkle, and there was another color you had for us.
Sea foam.
Seafoam.
Actually, I can tell you, I took a picture of it just so I'd have all the.
Well, let's
It
leave
is
it as
called.
periwinkle and seafoam. I like those colors.
Well, okay, but it's a nice place to visit. It's called Riviera.
Oh,
Mm,
somebody beat me to the punch on that one.
yeah. So
it's-
there you go.
It's nice to hear the color has been modified, whatever you want to call it. But I want to make it clear that it did not cause an incur cost to the district or anything, or cause any lead times in this project. So
Correct.
thank you to your team, Steve and Bill, for coming up with a.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it there. No,
Yeah.
I'm glad I have.
Really,
I'm glad
kudos.
to have a good- Yeah,
Kudos to Doug. He rocked it on this one. So thanks, Doug.
but I'm
Wherever you
glad we were able to do something. That's really great. the hand up, is that someone that should be in this meeting?
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's Doug's. I don't know if Steve's intentionally keeping Doug out of the meeting.
It says 161083. That's all it says.
It only cost me $20, Doug, to keep you out of the meeting till now.
Hey, there he is.
I don't know
Hey,
what
Doug.
161083 is.
I got pulled over last night. I got arrested, okay? It's my number.
So Doug, I apologize.
And thank you. And
I
thank you,
have no
Doug.
idea why it changed to that. That happened yesterday, and I'm trying to figure out a way to fix it.
I promise, if that said Doug Proctor, I would have put moved you up.
Yeah.
Where's the
Well, thank
orange
you.
jumpsuit, Doug?
You would have disconnected him.
It's a pullover. I wear it when I get in the car.
All right. Well, Doug, thank you for your help with the carpet too. I'm glad that issue's resolved, and I think people are gonna like it. Does everybody have any questions regarding updates or current project that's going on regarding the facility project? They have any questions about? Perfect. All right. So the next thing to discuss is a really important topic for this committee, because this committee is making a recommendation to the Hopkinton School Board this Thursday on our adult list for the district. And before we open up the discussion on this and do some discussion work on it, I just want to say, in our last board meeting, I asked the superintendent of schools to have an internal audit with Jay Burgess, myself, Michelle, I think a couple other people, just real quickly to go through and make sure that we met the needs of the promised bond to the community. And it was a great exercise, and it was really great to see that we checked all the boxes off and were able to meet those needs. And to me, before we have a discussion on adults, I have to be comfortable saying we've met the needs of this bond to the community and reward them with additional items that we can do for this project. So for me to say that and to have oversight from Jay, Steve, and other people on this team, I really want to say thank you, because I wasn't part of the project in the beginning. A lot of people put a lot of effort into this, and for them to go back and look at that work to say, you know what, we've exceeded this project with what needs to be done is important to me. So thank you. So before we move forward on that, I want to turn it over to Steve on how his team came up with the recommendations, because they're the ones that are in the school every day to use the additional funds from this project. I don't know if you want to pop up the total, Steve, or if you want to do that, whatever you feel comfortable.
Sure.
This is kind of a dry run for Thursday.
Sure. And I think we've spent a few hours in the last couple of weeks during vacation going through this. The team met during vacation. We've met since then, twice since then. And so I just want to talk a little bit about the beginning of the project and where we are through adults. So there's a lot of different components to it. For example, some things were done even before as part of increase to the base bid of the project. For example, the 4th classroom at Harold Martin School isn't an alternate. It's not a change order. That was added to the base bid. A teacher's room renovation at the secondary school was added to the base bid, even though that could have been an all, but that was added to the base bid. So there's been a lot of there was some expansion of the project in the base bid development by Turner, by Doug and his team. And then we had phase 1 of some additional scopes of the project, including the sprinkler system at Harold Martin School. That was above the scope. At Maple, we did some abatement, and we've already done some additional flooring at Maple Street School, because we did all that work during Christmas. And we've done additional work, metal roofing, as Barrett talked about at the high school. So phase 1 is we've already expanded the scope of the project. And now we're getting to our phase 2, which, as Barrett and BPS talked about, once we got to March and we're about halfway or so through the project, there have been some savings accumulated through the project. Those are now being released to the owner side, and we decide now so we can order and have all the equipment and all the supplies necessary to work through from now until August 28th, September 1, when we hopefully transfer most of the keys and get down to a punch list. So tonight, it's making and we were clear when we formed the building committee, when the board charged the building committee, the building committee would make recommendations to the board for additional alternates. There are some things, change orders that we've been working through, but this kind of substantive expansion of the project goes to the board. And so after working with Gordon and Doug and Barrett and Keith and Michelle, we got to a place of over $400,000 has been released savings incurred in the project. And that we're charged with allocating that in phase 2, what we think is what's best. Obviously, what drives us is what's best for kids. So the discussions included, what has to be done now? If you miss this opportunity, it's really not efficient to do it again. There's that piece. What's going to have the greatest, the team talked about educational impact. Also in some CIP relief, what in the last 12 years have we know we've really struggled with, and can we seize the opportunity now to make some long-term decisions that will help the district and the CIP and funding for the next 20 years. So that's where the discussion came. And after all these meetings, what's on the table for phase 2, so phase 2 allocation of adults, the first at Harold Martin School for phase 2, and I'll share my screen now. Thanks, Norm. I will. Can you see the colored table?
Yes.
I always like to make sure that something. So at Harold Martin School, the biggest adult right now is the nurse suite renovation that also encompasses or encouples additional toilet at the new office, some renovation to the mailroom, and allocating a learning abilities room out of that additional space. So currently that's an allowance of up to $135,000. We're hoping that we can design and try and cut that back to allocate some funds. But for tonight, it's not more than $135,000. That basically, and Bill can speak to this in a minute, that's basically the current office space where Gene Eaton is and where Bill's office and Gene Picard's office is. It's renovating new flooring. It's some cabinet work. It's changing putting a wall up to code and reconfiguring the bathroom so there's some more working space, privacy next to a facility appropriate for a nurse. So that's the phase 2 recommendation at Harold Martin School. At Maple Street School, the phase 2 recommendations is increase some flooring to do the library, media center, to do the corridor, the administration offices, some walk-off. Walk-off vernacular is coming in from the outside collecting dirt, plus rooms 5, 6, 7, and 8. And that's $29,000. And computer lab renovation, moving a wall that can be, and Amy can speak to this. I just bumped Amy up, so she can speak to this when we get there. It's creating a much larger space, multi-use, and also really it's a safety issue currently in the computer lab. They really can't have easy egress because it's so tight. The tables are so tight. So that's phase 2 there. And then once you get to the high school, it's single glazed window replacements, taking a look at our envelope and making sure long-term we're gonna have some energy savings. It's the library media center flooring, which we know has been really difficult to ever get through, and it's a good time to do it. And then reconfiguring the music room space, which supports the change in program and change the future of the program, a much use space there. So that's phase 2. Phase 3, and we can ask questions in a minute, the phase 3 piece is really the orange at Harold Martin School. And where that might come from, currently, Bonnet Page and Stone is not at a place where they can release the construction contingency, perfectly appropriate because there's still a lot of work to be done. But if there is a release later on, the priorities would be additional flooring at Harold Martin School, really trying to catch up where we are, where we need to be. And then believe it or not, and Norm and I are really in the same, 17 parking spaces. And at Harold Martin School, if you've been there for any of the 17 parking spaces are not insignificant. That means we can move all the faculty to those a lot of the faculty to those 17 and open up a lot more. So that's phase 3. That would come if more funds are released as the project moves. And then some things that we're putting in our CIP, some roofing, some stair replacement at Harold Martin. A skylight, which is going to be added to our, that's the cowl wall, some glazing and flooring at the entryway, and then some stair treads, the music room windows, which are huge, but those have recently been worked on. And then, of course, the skylight, which is a big ticket in the future. So phase 1, we've done. Phase 2, we're talking about. Phase 3, when money gets released, and then we're building our CIP to go forward. The leadership team has met and talked about this for about a couple of months. The executive committee of the building group has talked about this for 2 months. And of course, we had initial discussions a month ago for the building committee. I think that's about where we are. Bill, Chris, Rebecca, and Amy can answer any specific questions about projects at their schools. Norm, does that cover it for you?
No, I think it's great. And, you know, as someone who's part of the community, Steve, when I look at this, it's just very overwhelming to see how much more work we can do with this fund. The question I want to ask Barry is, you know, when you see a project like this and you see what you have savings towards the end of the project, have you seen such a large number like this towards the near the end of the project where you're able to say, wow, we have an additional 500,000? Is it because of raw materials are being less, or is it something that you've seen over the last year that's made it so there's a little bit of a savings?
No, it's a combination of things. One, I know you've listened to me in a lot of the project meetings. We have pressed for you folks to work with us to allow us in over vacations and breaks. The school has, I'm sure, suffered through allowing us in there to get those things done. That has a lot to do with it. There is a benefit of doing that and letting us in the school during those breaks. It gets us the ability to get a lot of work done when we're a little idle, so we're more efficient. So that's one. We were blessed, as you know, at the beginning of the project with some great bidding. Got some very competitive numbers through the competitive bid process. Now we've gotten through a lot of the unknowns of a project. You know, we're through the site work at Harold Martin. We're getting through a lot of the renovations. We still have some, but we've gotten through 50% of the renovations, maybe a little more, which we were able to do because you let us in those areas during those school breaks. Getting through those renovations and not finding those unknown costs that we can't anticipate allows us to free up those funds that we were able to bank, for lack of a better word, through those competitive bid numbers. And just being fortunate with a great group of subs, working with a great team and being efficient. So it's a lot of that. We like to pride ourselves working with Turner Group and ourselves and great group subs. The owner and Gordon has allowed us the flexibility to generate these dollars. So to answer your question, we have seen these numbers in the past, but sometimes we are not allowed to release them back to the owner because we haven't had this cooperative nature. You know, I know Steve has sometimes been a little concerned about letting us into the schools, rightfully so, during these breaks. And the concerns of would we really get out of there in that 1 week time frame. We've gotten a few extras due to the unfortunate nature of COVID. So that's been a benefit to you groups in that way on the construction side, because we've been able to get in air, you know, earlier in some areas. So hopefully that long-winded answer gives you an idea how we've gotten here.
And Norman, I can throw a couple more logs on the fire on that one, because with the original numbers that we put forward were based on our best guess in basically the end of 2018. So we accommodated escalation that we were seeing substantially over the previous 3 or 4 years. The escalation in 17 to 18 was 10%. So I think we factored it in at 5. But, you know, that certainly helps a little bit. The other thing that, and I think I think Barry isn't kind enough to the team. I think if you look at some of the costs that he was able to get by competitively bidding at a very strange time construction wise. The city of Boston shut down construction in March, and it didn't really start up until after we were well into the bidding part of this process. And the construction starts in the city of Boston were down a quarter year on year with COVID involved. So that was a lot of labor, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of work that was looking to land somewhere. And I think we were fortunate that we were able to have it land here on our project. For example, the mechanical work, there was a $60,000 difference in the prices between two good solid contractors that I'm familiar with in my work in the city. Either one of them were great, and we ended up with 60,000 less from one good one to another good one. So I think that's a part of it. We don't want to forget about the grant opportunities that we were able to take advantage of. I think we were looking at over $100,000 in grants, various grants. But again, go back to the teamwork that came involved here. Doug's design basically got us the fourth classroom for free, or not for free, but for a nominal additional cost. I think that's very important. I wouldn't be talking nice about Doug if I thought he was here, but I see he's dropped off again. So, but it was some good solutions there. The ramp at the middle high school, that was a value-added thing. Excuse me, at Maple Street School, that was really cool. And not to mention the work that the community members had done. Ken and Rennell, who were part of this from the beginning, all this came together, and I think that's where that money's coming from, Norm. From my point of view, if we were just looking to stroke my ego, it would have been about $75 less than we had predicted. But I'm glad that we're able to have this conversation, and it's based, some unlocking a lot on good teamwork.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. And I wish I could take that audio clip and play it for the board meeting on Thursday, because it's exactly spot on, with what you had to say.
I'll sell it to you.
Huh?
He's coming to the board meeting, so we're okay.
Oh, I know. Yeah, he's got.
I'll sell it to you.
And I think a couple things that what's really important to share with the community is that we have BPS on site in order to do this. We have the team to do all these additional things now, as opposed to doing it later. But we have the time to do it. Time is money is what essentially what Barry alluded to. Being in there more, we have a little bit more of a say. So I think that's really great. One thing that I was really surprised about throughout this whole project for me was, knock on wood, was throughout this process we hadn't used any of the contingency up to this point, and that's still the case right now. Barry, correct? We're around 215, I think, still.
Yeah, I've used some small dollars, but yeah, the lion's share of it is there. Yes.
So with and you can yell at me, I'm getting off Michelle will, I'm sure. So with 215 there, and then 150 towards furniture and fixtures, and then this, once the money is released to us in July, it gives us an opportunity to do phase 3, which I assume, Steve, at that time, based on the target, we would have to go back to the board again for phase 3, or is this, okay. So we'd go back to the board after we get contingency back. Awesome. Based on what Steve said and what you heard here, does anyone have any questions on how we got there with the recommendation to the school board? Any suggestions or any comments that they would like to ask?
One thing you should be ready for is you might have a board member or public say, well, why don't we just stop and forget spending any of this money? And I think that answers what you just asked as a question, which is that when we first bid this project, we had alternates. We had things we wanted to do. And again, I always equate it to a house. You've got that kitchen and you always wanted the curtains, but you said, you know what, let's not order the curtains yet because we got to see if we have enough money left over after we get the countertops in. So we all along wanted a lot of these. You all did. We just didn't pull the trigger because we wanted to give a safety valve. We said all along that March was going to be when that safety valve was ready to be released. So this is not something new that we said, oh, gee, we've had this windfall, let's go spend it. This has always been in the queue on these items. It's just when's the right time to pull the trigger so that we don't end up coming back to the community saying, we're not going to be on time and we're not going to be on budget.
Can I just piggyback on that just by saying that these aren't wants, they're needs. So whether it's the cheapest time to do it is now. If we go ahead and do what some people might say, return the money, we have to do it at some point. It will cost us more money. And so I just think that's important with that caveat.
Thank you.
Agree. Now's the time to be out there on site. We have the funds and to continue to improve our schools for special kids and just for, taxpayers. It's hard to raise money at some point. If a warrant fails, we can't add to CIP, and it's just how it is.
And one final buzzword to tell at the public meeting, it sounds like a soundbite, but it's a very important one, and that is you are on schedule and you are on budget. Because there's many schools in a school project right now that they are not on either schedule or on budget or both. And that's a significant thing to be at this point so close. We're actually so close to the end, although we say we have so much more to go. In our minds, everything's bought, purchased, and in the queue. So we are close to the end in that regard.
Well, I also think this group has been very tight, meeting on a regular basis and going through every single question, any single problem. I mean, it's been working very closely with Barry and his team, and I'm very pleased to see that we're at this point to make this next move.
Norm, can I ask 2 quick functional questions?
Absolutely, sir.
Thanks. One's for Bill and one's for Amy. So Bill, I don't know what the educational code is for a learning abilities room. I'm kind of curious what that is. And then for Amy, if you could just talk about the multi-use for the computer lab and how much more space there might be, that'd be great.
Well, Rob, since you brought it up, this may come as a surprise, but I think we might be able to eliminate that piece. What we were going to do, we were going to split an OT room into 2 sections to allow 2 special ed teachers to have, LD specifically, to have more privacy. In thinking about the rest of the building, and of course, some of it's contingent upon what we do with the nurse's office and my office, my current office, and the nurse's current office. I think we can eliminate that, and that's looking at that. Looks like with the drywall and acoustic ceilings, it's not a lot. It's not big bucks. It looks like 3,000. So appreciate Doug looking at that, but I think we might be able to not use that.
Thanks.
Sure.
Hey, Steve, am I able to share my screen for a minute so I can show Rob the part that will be expanded?
You will be now, I think. Thank you, Amy. Sorry about that. I should have had that all set.
That's okay. All right. Can you see my screen, Rob?
Yeah,
I can.
Okay, so the computer lab at Maple, and you've been in the building. So the computer lab, the orientation of this part of the diagram is that the teaching wall of the computer lab will now be on the hallway wall. Do you know what I mean by that? Not on the wall that abuts Sandy's room. It's not going to be the one that abuts the hallway. So the renovation of the lab will allow more access for Karen to circulate her space. If you've been in that space right now, you know right now that it's set up like 2 tunnels. So the kids kind of come in. And if you're in the very last row, everybody else has to get out so that you can move around. So the new teaching wall would be the one that faces the hallway. And then around the perimeter of the computer lab would be the counters and computer workstations. And then this wall starting at about A1, that's about a 6-foot increase into the library. So that space right now where the computers are set up, that's right outside the computer lab, that would now be inside the computer lab. So I do think I wanted to talk to Doug at some point once we're okay or we're really moving forward with the project. Karen would like some flexibility with one of the tables. I know at the last meeting I had asked if it was a possibility for those to be flexible. Both Matt and Doug, I think, had some concerns about whether they could be safely powered up to use a tech phrase, which is like that, that they could have the equipment that you need to be able to put the computer station. So I just don't know if there's any way to make those two tables in the center flexible or not. But I do think that the space will flow much better. It'll be able to hold more people. Right now we can hold around 20 kids, but I think that the stations, we could, certainly the orientation of the teaching wall makes it easier for folks to be able to, see the instruction, to be part of the instruction. And then the flexibility in the center there, we could have small groups working in the computer lab, which right now it's really hard to do that just because it's difficult to navigate the space.
So the expansion of the room is just about 6 feet coming the other way. Is that the primary structural change to that room?
Yeah, it's really just the wall that has the windows. And Doug can jump in if I'm wrong, but it's just, in my understanding, they would take down the interior door that links the library and the computer lab, and then bump into that space that right now has the library computers, and then that would allow the rest of the space to be renovated in that existing space.
I guess I'm kind of like looking, and maybe I've got my number wrong, but that seems like the price tag on that to move a wall, unless part of this is going to go into the technology that goes in there. Steve, what was the number for that particular part of the?
That number is 78,244. So I think it's casework, and Doug can speak to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of casework, rework. We have to move the wall. We have to get a new door frame, move the door. We have to redo the ceiling around everything. We have to put in new electric for everything. And then we have to adjust all the HVAC between the library and that space as well. So it's not just moving a wall. There's every time you move a wall, there's a lot of stuff that goes with it.
A lot of mechanicals along with it that go with it. Okay,
Yeah.
thank
Cool.
you.
Let me, 78,000 does sound like a lot of money. So let me go through the individual line items, if that may be of help. So a quick breakdown. So demolition for that room to get ready for it is, I'm going to round these numbers off. It will not add up due to being exactly 78, but rough numbers. Demo is $9,600. I have rough carpentry of a couple $100. We have interior architectural woodwork, all that casework, that is a sub number of $22,000. I have doors, frames, and hardwares of $2,100. We have some glazing, glass for those doors, etc., $1,800. New gypsum, drywall, mudding, and tape for relocating that wall, $4,800. Ceilings, acoustical ceiling work, $3,200. Flooring, $4,600. Painting, $2,600. New display boards, visual display boards, $2,400. I have a little bit of room signage there for $200. Mechanical work for anything that needs to be done for that duct work and et cetera, for changes in there is $6,800. We have to deal with sprinkler heads and et cetera in there. So that is $3,700. The electrical work in that area is $8,100. And then the performance and payment bond for that ad is $467. And our fee for that work is $1,700. So a lot of little numbers, but broken down like that. Hopefully that makes more sense for you.
Thank you.
Rob, we could demo that wall for $200, you and I. We can get through that.
I think I can get in there with my truck and do it for even less.
Be on the cleanup crew.
As long as you all stay,
I might
as long as
end
you
up
all-
wearing Doug's jumpsuit though if I did that, I think. For sure.
And I welcome to you that, but you have to meet my schedule.
Okay.
Oh. Great, thank you for that. Great question, Rob. I've been getting the weeds and seeing all this. One thing, when we were going through this list, I think one of the most important things that was important to me was trying to balance this among all three schools. And Jay said that in one of our management meetings is that we put a lot of work into Charles Martin. I agree, but it's also important to look at each school and giving it a little bit of maintenance and stuff that are needs to happen. And I want to say thank you to all the team members here who really took the time to look at this and say what was best to use of this fund. I'm excited to bring it forward to the board. Anyone here have any additional questions regarding the slate or how we got there? That's great, because we put a lot of time and effort into it, and we should be very proud. I'm very proud, and I'm always proud. But with that, if there's
Do the action item right now if you'd like.
yes, that's what I would go for. Yeah. So with that, may I please have a motion for the approval of the slate of adult phase 2 to be recommended to the Hopkinton School Board for March 4th, 2021.
So
Was
moved.
that good? Was that a good motion? Was that good enough? Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Perfect. Since the motion's been made and we are remote, I will do a roll call for everybody. So Steve Chamberlain,
Yes.
Bill,
Carosa, yes.
Michelle Clark,
Michelle Clark, yes.
Jay,
Jay Burgess is yes.
Rob,
Rob Nato, yes.
Rebecca,
Rebecca Gagnon, yes.
Chris,
Chris Kelly, yes.
Amy,
Yes.
and Norm Gupel is a yes. I don't know about you, but I have a really good feeling after just doing that. You know, it's a great feeling to bring this to the board on Thursday. And thank you, Jay, and thank you, Rob, to speak to this, and especially our leadership team. If you're there on Thursday, you want to, say something about what we're doing at your location. I please ask you to say something, because this is a very proud moment, I think, for us to be able to deliver these additional adults to this beautiful project into this community. So thank you all for that recommendation to the school board. And thank you, Barry and Gordon and H.L. Turner, for all your work on all the questions we've had, working together and working really good as a good team. Really, really good. Thank you. So next thing on our agenda is the financial report. I will turn it over to Michelle Clark for the
Sure.
financial report.
So in the Google Drive, you should see the February financial, which shows that we've spent about a little over $3.5 million at this point. So just to remind people, we had the $5 million that we got for the bond, the first bond. We also got some grant money from the state. I did submit application for bond 2. That's well ahead of schedule, but probably I believe it's the end of May, beginning of June, there'll be information that's going to be needed from the contract team, Barry, Gordon, and Doug, like before.
And you're all probably looking at me while I'm going like this and reading her document. Real quick, Michelle, what is the interest rate now we have on the bond? Because we are approaching, is it going to be over 10 or is it still going to be under 10 when it comes time to have that warrant?
What do you mean by over 10, under 10? Sorry.
Our warrant for the bond, the interest on the bond is $10,000, correct?
Interest, $10,000, the interest.
So the interest, we're not going to hit 10,000 because it goes
Okay.
till June 30.
Okay.
Because I was being optimistic, but not knowing how often we were going to be taking money out of this account. The treasurer really does transfer once we do make a payment, to kind of keep that like on the no balance due type thing. So I think right now, oh, that's right, I didn't print out the revenue. So the revenue, if I had to guess, is a little over 4. And again, what will happen is this goes through June 30 of 21. So there'll have to be another warrant article potentially on for next school district meeting to spend the balance, if that's what it is, on the project, or it just goes as a revenue.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that. Does anyone have any other questions regarding the financial report? great, Michelle. Thank you very much for your help. All right, the next thing on our agenda, if I'm correct, is public comment. I will open up public comment and then close public comment because we have no one here in attendance for this meeting. So with that, does anyone have any other questions? Anything else they'd like to discuss for this? All right, with that, I look forward to seeing some of you on Thursday at the Hopkinton School Board's meeting for this recommendation. I look forward to hearing their feedback on it, and thank you all for your time. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 5:18. Thank you guys, I appreciate it. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye.
All right.